Good evening, everyone. How are you? It's good to see all of your beautiful faces. Thank you for joining us this evening in person and virtually. My name is Atiya Shahid, and I'm a current graduate student here at Tuskegee University, a previous winner of the All of Us Minority Student Research Symposium, and one of the All of Us Institutional Champions. First, I would like to welcome one of our university giants. Please welcome Dr. Stephen Shodeke, our resident bioethicist for the Center of Biomedical Research, Professor of Bioethics and Allied Health Sciences, and one of our TU All of Us Institutional Champions, Dr. Shodeke.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shahid. Reverend Katrina Love, President of the Macon County Ministerial Council, has agreed to lead us in opening prayer. Reverend Love.
Good evening, everyone. Let us invoke the presence of the Spirit of God into this place. Father God, we say thank you for allowing us to be here today. We thank you for this event. You know the purpose and the plans that you have for us, Lord God, and we know that they are good. So God, open our spirits to hear, give us the wisdom to understand, and God, give us the courage to be bold enough to go forth to do what you have purposed and ordained for us to do. We know that we are standing on sacred ground, so God, allow us to experience you in a new way. As we participate tonight, God, we give you thanks. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Reverend Love. This is a day of celebration. So let me now invite the Tuskegee community, faculty, students, to help us give a warm welcome to all of those that are attending in person and virtually in the spirit of one Tuskegee. Are you ready? TU, TU, TU. Tuskegee. Whoa. Tuskegee. Thank you so much. It is with gratitude to God, who knows and sees all things, that I stand here today to welcome you to this historic event. I want to thank my wife and family and my prayer partners for their support and encouragement through the years. I value the leadership and integrity of Dr. Shana Prakash, the Dean of College of Arts and Sciences, who is here today, Dr. Prakash. And the support and encouragement of Dr. Clayton Yates, the Director of the Center for Biomedical Research, where I serve. He's probably online watching from wherever he is. He travels a lot. I want to recognize our community folks that are here. Ms. Bernice Frazier over there, Dr. Lucinia Nunn and their guests that they brought over here. Thank you so much for blessing us with your presence. May God bless you all. This historic event in a sense, provides an opportunity for me to bring to you a team of Tuskegee University researchers and students who I refer to as trailblazers, shedding their light on the road less traveled until now, so that others can follow. I want to thank them ahead of time for their courage and for daring to take this incredible journey with us and with the All of Us research program. The appropriate time will come when our moderator, Ms. Atiya Shahid, will introduce the TU team along with others from North Carolina A&T and University and Morgan State University. That there is a story behind all of this, right? Right? Say yes. Okay. Well, I will save you the long form of the story until another date. But allow me for now to share the short form of the story. It goes like this. After securing the data use and registration agreement for Tuskegee University, I received a call for application in July of 2022 from the Research Triangle Institute International, requesting that we apply for a champion award directed at HBCU researchers who will learn how to use the largest and diverse database of the All of Us research program to do health research. I immediately thought, TU could do this. We could actually do this. And I reached out to 6 faculty members, but 3 responded to join the team. You meet those outstanding 3 faculty members today. I think one of them is off at a conference, but you'll meet 2 that have been holding the fort. Well, miraculously, RTI gave the Institutional Championship Award to Tuskegee University. And we added 4 students to the team in 2022. And a 5th one in January 2020. And you just heard from her, Ms. Atiya Shahid. This event today gives you a glimpse of what has been going on. You might say it is a progress report of sorts. But my prayer and hope is that by God's grace and with the provision of appropriate resources, in due time, this event would stimulate the interest of faculty and students to observe the great potential of the huge national database for research, get involved, learn how to use the resource, and even become participant partners in the All of Us research program that aims for precision population health towards health equity. To God be the glory. That's my welcome message to you, students, faculty, community folks, whether you are here in person or joining us online. And I suspect that The next person to speak will be Mr. Richmond, right? All right. He is joining us virtually. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Dr. Sadecki, and good evening to all of you. Thank you so much, Dr. Sadecki, for that beautiful, beautiful opening. You grounded us in the spirit of Tuskegee University, a most amazing and historic university. I had the pleasure of visiting the campus about 4 years ago now, and was just awestruck, would be the word, to walk on the hallowed grounds of Tuskegee University, a university that I've heard about all my life, and had just envisioned one day I would be able to visit the campus and the city of Tuskegee and the surrounding area. Dr. Sadecki, it's a pleasure to join you and others at Tuskegee today and those who are joining us online. I am Al Richmond, Executive Director of Community Campus Partnerships for Health. And I bring you greetings from Raleigh, North Carolina, my home, and I hope to be with you soon in Tuskegee. Want to acknowledge the amazing team that's there on the ground, Virginia Hunter and Sarita Hannah Boykin, both of whom are CCPH team members who are leading our work in the All of Us project. You see them here. And what is so very interesting and unique is that all of us literally are HBCU graduates. I want to give a shout out to my alma mater, Livingstone College in Salisbury, North Carolina. Sarita Hannah Boykin is a graduate, did her undergraduate work at Elizabeth City State University, and Virginia Hunter is a graduated from Central State University. So we have North Carolina and Ohio represented tonight as part of the project. So we launched our All of Us project on the historic campus of Howard University in Washington, D.C. And our next stop is now Tuskegee University. And I think that's so appropriate for us to actually kind of visit this campus and to actually have an opportunity to really connect with the faculty, researcher staff, students, and the community of Tuskegee. I want to center one word because I know that there are others that are on the program tonight, and that word is proximity. And so when I was thinking about this, Dr. Sadecki and others, I thought about the word proximity to really center us in our work. Proximity is so important because the research that Dr. Sadecki described is such that we as graduates and as alumni and as friends and researchers of historically Black colleges and universities have an opportunity because of our proximity to the problem. We all are very much aware of health disparities in this nation and the intractable conditions that many of our communities live in and the health inequities that they experience each day, including the social determinants of health that really have so many people in the African-American community and Black and brown communities and poor white communities in this intractable position of really not being able to find their way forward as it relates to improved health. I believe that the All of Us Research Project holds that opportunity. And I believe that because of the proximity of HBCUs to the problem, they are well positioned to address the issues of health inequities. You will hear more about that from all of our institutional champions tonight. When I think about where the majority, if not all of the HBCUs are located. They are located, in general, they're located in low wealth communities in close proximity to communities that are experiencing the burden of health inequities. So in other words, they are in close proximity to the problem. The other piece of this in terms of proximity is that many of the faculty, staff, and students are from these communities, such that they have proximity in terms of personal relationships, relationships through church, relationships through fraternal organizations, Greek letter organizations, through community participation to the problem. So when we think about the All of Us project, but not only this project, but similar research initiatives, HBCU should be leading the way in calling for increased participation of underrepresented researchers in projects such as All of Us and others as well. So I want to again welcome you to the tonight's program, but also want you to think about what you and we all can do as it relates to our close proximity to the problem to actually resolve the intractable issues around health inequities and advance an agenda for health justice and equity in our nation and in our communities. Thank you so much. God bless you. And I'm looking forward to being with you very soon. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Sula Hood, and I am the co-lead for the All of Us Researcher Academy. I thank you so much for having myself and my team today, and I'm really excited to tell you about all of the great work that we're doing in collaboration with our colleagues at HBCUs. I am a child of 2 HBCU graduates. My parents went to Mississippi Valley State University, and I also completed a post-bac at Meharry Medical College, and it was life-changing. So I'm so just blessed to be able to come full circle and work with the Researcher Academy. So I'm excited to share with you more about it. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'll talk a little bit about the All of Us Research Program. I know you've heard some great things from Dr. Shadecki and Mr. Richmond. So the All of Us research program, it's a historic, huge effort to collect data from 1 million or more people living in the US. And they're very, very intentional about recruiting participants from diverse backgrounds, especially those that are underrepresented in biomedical research. The data and research that will be done with the All of Us data set will help to advance precision medicine and individualized care. So now let's talk about where the Researcher Academy fits in all of that. And so as we mentioned, there's a huge data set for the All of Us research program. And all of that data is housed on a cloud-based platform called the All of Us Researcher Workbench. The All of Us Researcher Academy provides training and technical assistance to connect researchers to be able to analyze data utilizing this Researcher Workbench. Our first phase of our Researcher Academy is dedicated to supporting researchers at historically Black colleges and universities. Next slide, please. Okay. So a goal of our Researcher Academy is really to establish a diverse learning network of researchers who will use All of Us data. And so we're growing in our relationships and our affiliations with institutions across the country. And we are really focused on promoting equitable access to researchers so that they can use and analyze the data from all of us. You'll see here on the right, we have a wide range of program components that we are implementing as a part of our academy. We have internships and fellowships for students and faculty members. We have training opportunities that I'll share. We also provide technical assistance for analyzing data, and partnerships are essential to the Researcher Academy. Next slide, please. Okay. So as a part of our training opportunities, we're really excited about offering tuition-free short courses for Academy scholars. And so these are short courses on a wide range of topics that are accessible to faculty members, postdocs, and students that are at HBCUs. The topics range from how to access the Researcher Workbench, where the data is housed, to topics related to analyzing the data, Also, we provide courses in research dissemination so that once researchers have analyzed the data, they can properly write it up and effectively and successfully get it published. We also have support in courses related to securing funding support, as well as other types of topics. And we're always growing in our courses. And so if there are particular topics, if there are any researchers, students, postdocs in the audience and online, please feel free to put in the chat your ideas and suggestions for any other types of topics that you think would be helpful and useful to people. Next slide, please. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about our institutional champion awards, and Dr. Shadecki did a wonderful job of sharing the story about how he and his team got involved as awardees. But just a little bit of background about the awards. They are designed to support teams of researchers so that they can analyze data using the All of Us Researcher Workbench. These awards are up to $75,000 to support teams of faculty, students, and postdocs. And so we were happy to fund our first round of institutional champion awardees in 2022, and excited that Tuskegee was in that first cohort. We do have a open call that is still open. It closes out pretty soon in 2 days. But if there are teams and individuals online that are interested in applying, please feel free to scan the QR code, or when the slides are shared out, you can click on the link to access the application. And so we're excited to be funding this second cohort. Next slide, please. Okay. So another component of the Researcher Academy that our team has worked really hard on is our newsletter. And this is a part of our efforts to really build our networks and put the studies and all of the great work that our Researcher Academy scholars are doing out there so that other people can know about it. Our newsletters are distributed on a quarterly basis, and we have very informative sections. We have a researcher spotlight. We really like to highlight the great work that researchers, including students and faculty members and postdocs, are doing as a part of their connection to all of us. We also have a career corner. We know that a lot of the students are looking at career opportunities. And so that is led by one of our colleagues, Frida Green, who is also a HBCU graduate. And so she provides tips and pointers for career development in our newsletters. And of course, we also provide announcements and information about upcoming courses and events. We would love if you would sign up for our newsletter, and our next issue will be coming out in May. And so once again, you can scan this QR code to access the newsletter. Next slide, please. Okay, so now I'm just going to talk a little bit about the All of Us Researcher Workbench that houses the data. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the Researcher Workbench is a cloud-based platform that is accessible from anywhere. And there's a wealth of data on this platform that researchers can analyze. There's data on physical measurements, there's survey response data, to responses on topics such as experiences with COVID and social determinants of health. There's also EHR data, or electronic health records data from many people. And then there's also wearables data as well as genomics data. And so there's a wide range of topics, data for people to study various different topics of their interest. And once again, the All of Us Researcher program is very intentional about recruiting participants from diverse backgrounds. And so the data is reflective of people of various different backgrounds. Next slide, please. I just wanted to share a little bit about how to register for the Researcher Workbench. We've included the link up above, as well as a QR code for people who are interested in registering for the Researcher Workbench. Something called a data use and registration agreement at the institutional level is required for individuals to be able to sign up for the Researcher Workbench. And it's linked to individuals' institutional email. And so when you go to sign up, you can check to see the status of your institution and whether or not they have a DURA in place. But once you've confirmed, you can move forward with the Researcher Workbench sign up. And if your institution doesn't have a DURA, there is information on the site about helping your institution to get signed up for a DURA. Next slide, please. Okay. And I also just want to let you know, when you go through the sign up process, it's very important that you acknowledge that you are a Researcher Academy participant and have that connection to us by clicking on All of Us Researcher Academy International when the drop-down option comes for the question, who gave this activity, event, or presentation? And that will help NIH to know that you learned about the Researcher Workbench through an Academy outreach and engagement activity. And so we have the link here for you to sign up for the Researcher Workbench, as well as a QR code. Okay. Next slide. So now I'm going to pass it over to my colleagues to talk a little bit about their projects that they're doing as a part of the Institutional Champions program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hood, for providing such an in-depth conversation and overview of the All of Us Researchers Workbench and of the Researchers Academy. Now, after this, we will have a Q&A session. But now we will have our institutional champions. First, we will have Morgan State University, followed by North Carolina A&T State University, and our very own Tuskegee Trailblazers.
Greetings, colleagues. My name is Dr. Anderson, Maya Anderson, and I am serving as the lead administrator here at Morgan State University for the All of Us Research Initiative. I'm unable to attend in person this session as I have a conflict. Therefore, I'm going over my slides now and sending this forward to provide an update from the perspective of Morgan. I'm going to start by introducing the team. The project director for this is Dr. Kim Sidnor, who serves as the Dean of the School of Community Health and Policy, and also as the director of the new Center for Urban Health Equity. My name again is Maya Anderson. I'm the lead administrator. I serve as the program director for nursing here at Morgan State. I also serve and practice as a forensic examiner, nurse examiner, and my research interest has dealt over the years as an ER nurse and a forensic nurse with victims of law enforcement violence. To that end, there are the bulk of our team here are forensic nurses who have worked with victims of sexual assault and victims of law enforcement violence. And we joined the project for that particular reason. Dr. Glimbaki, Margaret Glimbaki, is a fellow nurse, and she is a Center for Urban Health Equity Fellow working on this project specific to victims of law enforcement violence. And the rest of our team, our Jackie Kalari Robinson is a PhD candidate. She serves as a Center for Urban Health Equity Fellow, as well as Forensic Sexual Assault Nurse Examiner. Liz Loudon is another PhD candidate. She serves as a Center for Health Equity Fellow and a Forensic Nurse Examiner. Dr. Amelia Asamoah is an assistant professor here in the nursing program, and her research interest is in heart disease, and so she'll be utilizing the database for that. Kershaw Davis is a DNP candidate. He serves as adjunct faculty, and he's also a Center for Urban Health Equity Fellow. His research interest as an ER nurse in mental health, particularly in the ER, is also working with victims of law enforcement violence. Dr. Burshiji Alamis is an assistant professor here in the nursing program at Morgan State University. Her research interest is with maternal health. And our final team member, who I don't have a picture for, is Dr. Sabria Sturdivant, who serves as the coordinating research faculty person for the Center for Urban Health Equity. As well, her research interest is in mental health equity specific to the goals of the All of Us research program. So I described our primary project, which was when Dr. Southwell reached out to us to offer us the opportunity to participate in this particular initiative for all of us. We had gotten some money last year to introduce the project, the All of Us Research Project, to campus and to the community. And so this outreach is the second step for us here at Morgan State University. One of the things that we found when we were examining questions relative to social determinants of health that are in the All of Us Research database was that they were lacking any questions relevant to examining the prevalence of law enforcement in our communities that are most impacted. And so we developed our project, or we submitted our initial proposal with the goal of working to develop questions that we would present to the All of Us team that examine the impact of law enforcement violence in those communities. Dr. Asamoah, whose research project, her PhD project, was on heart disease and utilization of technology to mitigate recidivism or to mitigate return visits relative to heart disease, is examining the data and the database relative to that. Dr. Burshiji Alamis is our maternal health or women's health expert here at Morgan State University. And so she's examining data relevant to that. The caveat is one of the things that we discovered when we were reviewing some of our nursing education textbooks is that there's still some bias-related content in those nursing education textbooks. And so she has also focused in that area as well, working with the publishers to eliminate that bias. And then Dr. Sturdivant, again, is looking for data relevant to mental health equity in the database. Some of the challenges that we have had with regard to getting the All of Us research program initiative up and off the ground here at Morgan State University had to deal with logistics. So getting the money, getting the funding set, developing the contracts. And so for the faculty who are on 9.5-month contracts, we've had to push their contracts to summer work, but they've still been doing the trainings that have been offered, completing the trainings that have been offered for adjunct faculty or our fellows. It's not been as difficult. The issues that we had, again, were with some of these those were logistical issues on Morgan State University's part. Now, with regard to that, that represents itself also as a strength, because Morgan State is moving to R1 status. And in doing so, they've been working on developing and refining the infrastructure to be able to support that. So part of what we have done with this funding and with logistical challenges that we've encountered has been to help Morgan State's office Division of Research and Economic Development identify some of the infrastructural challenges that are inherent to this type of funding, and to develop steps or interventions, develop processes that make it smoother for us to be able to work with these types of contracts. The other challenges that we had to deal with was with regards to time frame and when the funding was announced. So we're in the middle of our school year, and we're still primarily a teaching institution. And so to carve out time for research has been challenging for the full-time faculty who are teaching and are engaging in research. The majority of the work will be completed over the summer. And so I wanted to present the challenges that we've had, as well as some of the things that we've put in place to be able to support this as sort of a learning opportunity for the next round of funding for any participants who are going to engage in the next round of funding. Overall, we've had a good experience. We've gotten positive feedback from the faculty who participated in the trainings and what they've learned. We've learned a great deal, and we appreciate that. And we look forward to submitting our abstracts over the summer for review. And that's all. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Yvonne Ford. I am an assistant professor in the School of Nursing at North Carolina A&T State University. And I'd like to bring greetings from the largest public HBCU in the country and the third highest funded research university in the UNC system. Are there any North Carolina A&T Aggies in the room? I can't see you, but I can hear. All right. A&T is also actively on the journey from research to university to R1. And so being able to have access to the All of Us research database has been very helpful for us. My co-investigators, Dr. TJ Expert is an assistant professor in the Department of Kinesiology, and Dr. Kristen Reinhardt is an assistant professor in engineering. She does computational data science and engineering, and we've worked on some other projects together using machine learning. Next slide, please. Okay, so the research focus of our institutional champion team is social determinants of health and cardiometabolic risk reduction. We also have 3 students on our team. They're all in the College of Engineering. One is an undergraduate who's graduating and continuing her education, happy to say, and the other 2 are graduate students. So our research focus is threefold. We're looking at biological indicators, think about genomics. We're also looking at physiological areas that we can reduce cardiometabolic risk, and thinking about things like physical activity and other things that can decrease risk. But what I'd like to focus on tonight is telling you about our clinical focus. My research is with Black women who are long-term breast cancer survivors. And these women generally have come into the diagnosis of breast cancer with comorbidities such as obesity, such as hypertension, and such as diabetes. So all of these things have an effect on the heart, but breast cancer treatment itself is cardiotoxic, dependent on use of anthracycline chemotherapeutic agents, radiation therapy, and monoclonal antibody therapy. So our research questions for this clinical focus are what the effect of social determinants of health are on cardiovascular health and the 10-year risk of atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. In looking at that question, there are some variables that we looked at. Of course, the social determinants of health, there is a survey in the All of Us data, but you can also get some social determinants of health information from demographic data, such as age, race, educational attainment, employment status, occupation, insurance coverage. And a lot of that information is available in the electronic health record. We also are looking at what the incidence of heart failure or adverse cardiac events in Black or African-American women who are long-term survivors of breast cancer. And again, we're looking at those social determinants of health, and the survey in the All of Us data that is a social determinants of health questionnaire has 57,000 responses. So there's a rich source of data when you look at social determinants of health. We're also looking at their history of breast cancer. There are more than 8,000 people in this database that have breast cancer. Also, again, we have to look at their treatment modalities. We're looking at some cardiometabolic biomarkers, such as their BMI, their blood pressure, systolic and diastolic, their hemoglobin A1C to let us know what their blood glucose control looks like over a period of time, whether they have a history of diabetes, are they on any medications for diabetes, medications for hypertension and a history of that, and which treatment they had for breast cancer. Next slide, please. And this is the stuff I just talked about. But our team right now, our students have done Workbench training. They've also done data wrangling with R, one of the statistical software packages that is used to analyze these data. They're also attending some of those other courses and have learned quite a bit and found them very helpful. So we are really excited. We're going to do most of our work over the summer as well. We had some logistic problems that were A&T. We own those, but we're excited to get our team together outside of the school year this summer and get these data analyzed and get some publications and some abstracts out. And I think that's the last slide. But we'd like to thank the National Institutes of Health and particularly our partners at RTI International, because without that support and that funding, we would not be able to do what we're doing. Thank you for your attention and your time.
Now I will introduce the Tuskegee University Trailblazers. The students, please join us on these chairs here for you. You've met Dr. Shodake, and he serves as our administrative leader, and his expertise is in bioethics. And you've met Atiya Shahid. She is a graduate of an HBCU, Xavier, and she's working on another master's degree in public health, and she is working on her PhD as well. And her research focuses on HIV, HPV, and cervical cancer in Black women in the Black Belt region. Dr. Deepa Betty, who could not be with us, she's in the College of Veterinary Medicine in the Department of Biomedical Science, and she's an MD PhD,
and her expertise is in breast cancer and obesity. And she's mentoring Reshma Garang, who is also pursuing a PhD in integrative biosciences, Mohammed Omar. Both of them have their DVM, and he's also currently pursuing a PhD in integrative biosciences. And Dr. Deepa Betty is mentoring them. Dr. Chitra Nayak and I, Dr. Chitra Nayak is one of the few women physicists that exist in the world. She has a PhD, obviously, in physics, and she's here in our physics department, and she's working on AI bias and health disparities. And the two of us are mentoring the undergraduates that are here, Andrew Brown and Naya Holyfield. Both of them are biology majors. And my area is cardiovascular physiology, and I focus more on community-targeted approaches to blood pressure control. I'm also an HBCU grad. I'm a Spelman graduate. I'm from a small town, McRae, Georgia, which is similar to Tuskegee and Macon County area. And just like Macon County, my hometown has lost its hospital. And so let's salute these trailblazers. Next slide, please. Being part of the All of Us Researcher Academy has added value to us researchers, to the students here, and also this HBCU, to our people of color, to the women, to people underrepresented in research and STEM fields, to researchers at HBCUs, and our local community, many who are present with us today, our HBCU family. Do you ever feel like the world is attempting to solve problems about you without you? Yes. This has been the norm for communities underrepresented in research and medicine for decades. HBCUs like Tuskegee are positioned for community campus partnerships to advance health equity together. HBCUs produce 70% of Black physicians and dentists, 25% of Black scientists. So this opportunity with NIH shows us that the NIH sees us. They have committed resources to give HBCU researchers like us access. HBCU researchers like us were the first to gain access to this diverse research database. Not only do we have the database, but professional development opportunities that are listed on the slide to support our efforts. So you can see all the courses that the faculty and the students that are here have taken a part in. Not only do we have professional development opportunities, but access to experts and coaches that assist us in our effort to move through these self-paced modules. And we also have long-term access to the content in those modules. And that really helps those of us who wear many hats at the HBCUs. So the added value of being part of this All of Us Researcher Academy is really to provide support for our mentees, the future of STEM. We have a passion for our purpose, and that purpose is to prepare the next generation of leaders who ask questions that matter to them. And so Dr. Nayak will briefly talk about our research question that we're asking that matters to us.
Thank you, Dr. Bradford. So speaking of questions, as an interdisciplinary research team, we came up with this question. What are the top 5 risk factors identified using machine learning risk predicting algorithms and trained in maternal cardiovascular data? So the reason that we chose this question is because, of course, we know it's extremely important in the African-American community, where it is known that more African-American women are likely to die during pregnancy or during childbirth. Again, this also gave us, from a workforce development point of view, we will be able to have our young scientists to get trained in AI and machine learning algorithms. So the data it was extremely satisfying to see that this All of Us research data actually had a real diversity in data. So we just created our first workspace because we had some challenges too. Initially in setting up the workspace. And actually over this past 2 weeks, because of the help from the coaches of All of Us Research, we were able to do, and actually even Dr. Washington set us up with someone in your school too. Then again, we are looking at all the ethnicity, cardiometabolic risk, and other social determinants, and creating and benchmarking a tool which we hope to actually use in our community, which is as part of Dr. Bradford's research. Now, from a workbench or the workforce development point of view, I think our students are the best to talk about it. So I will now hand over to our students.
Thank you, Dr. Nayak. My name is Naya, and I just wanted to discuss my experience and why it was meaningful to me while conducting research under the All of Us research program. So this is my first experience conducting health research, and this motivated me to encourage those people, those aspiring researchers, as well as the people who look like me that could be potential research participants to participate in these research studies that are being conducted, because it is important for us to understand the issues of health that are prominent within our community and what we could do to resolve them. And this has also been meaningful to me because the All of Us research program has held these courses that allowed us as researchers to be mindful of our environment, our senses, as well as how to manage stress that is related to research. And that has been very meaningful to me because it allowed me to be more aware of my mind, my body, my spirit, as well as how to manage the stresses and have a greater appreciation of my life outside of work. And that allowed me to understand that the All of Us research really cares about us as researchers under their program, and it made me feel more comfortable as a researcher under this program, and I have a greater appreciation for it. So I am really enjoying my experience, and I'm encouraging anybody who is interested in conducting research to participate in this program as well. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrew Brown. I'm a senior biology major here at Tuskegee University. And since joining Dr. Bradford and Dr. Nayak and all of us the past few months has been invaluable. Just learning the ins and outs of research, this being my first research experience, has been amazing. Just going through like articles and even little things like learning how to work the workspace bench. So besides that, the Research Academy has given me time to develop skills such as computer programming and R and Python, as well as learning about topics such as intersectionality, which has been amazing. So I've been able to secure an internship in New York, and because of all of us. So thank you. So it's really been invaluable to me. So it's been an amazing experience.
Everyone, this is Mohammed Omar. I'm an IBS PhD student. Actually, all of us, first, before anything, I can see when you have the trust, someone trusts you to have an access to this huge amount of information and actually very sensitive information. This gives me like, you are taken care of. So this is one thing. The other thing is the courses I have learned through all of us. One of them was how to research, how to publish your health data in scientific journals. And since that time, I was able to publish 3 papers so far. And yeah, so this is a direct benefit. The other thing actually is also one thing, how was the course of how to apply for NIH funds. And this is like kind of requirement for my graduation from PhD. Actually, you know, right now I'm aware of all the process. How can I'm engaged? I'm engaged. When you feel you are engaged, you can do anything. So that was a great opportunity for me. Thank you for giving us this opportunity in Tuskegee, and welcome all to Tuskegee. And nice to meet you all there. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. So firstly, I'm Resma Guru. I'm originally from Nepal, and this is my second year in the Integrative Bioscience PhD program. I'm really grateful to get this opportunity as a graduate student to be part of the All of Us Researcher program and to engage with my other mentors and my fellow friends to conduct research, particularly on the relating to the underrepresented and health disparities that are ongoing. And I feel proud to be part of HBCU. And for the Researcher Academy, I also get opportunity to learn many things from the all of us, like in learning on the data analysis of R programming and Python, and also to learn about how to write the grant and apply for the NIH grant. So it's really grateful, and I'm really happy to be part of it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much to our institutional champions. I love to see research being completed at HBCUs. I do believe that we are excellence and magic personified. So let's give another round of applause for all of our universities. Woo! Okay, now we're gonna have a Q&A session. So if you have any questions, there is a mic at the back of the room. Okay, we have a question over here. Y'all know y'all need those extra credit points. Make sure y'all ask y'all questions. Extra credit points, yes. Please stand up. Thank you.
I wanted to ask in regards to the grant writing portion of the workspace bench. How in-depth is the course, and is there actually the process of like finding and sourcing them out also?
Great question. I didn't take the grant writing course, but I believe Omar did. Can you answer his question?
Actually, that course started with what is NIH criteria for grants writing and how to start application, starting from receiving some RAA, call for application, and then how is the process is going on. So how they review your application. So how the process is going on. So how they evaluate. So once you know the process, how is it going, so you will be able to produce some good proposals that fit this criteria actually. And actually that course, the most important thing, that NIH reviewer, were giving the course to us. So it was a very good experience. So I encourage everyone, if you can join us and take the course, is very, very helpful. And also, it's going to help you if you are going to continue in academia, how to get funded and how other opportunities you may get from NIH. So yeah, I encourage everyone to participate and get this course. Thank you.
Dr. Sula Hood may want to answer that question.
Yes, thank you so much to the student that asked about the content of the grant writing course. The grant writing course was designed to be very, very comprehensive, to really set up researchers to have the toolbox of information to be able to successfully write grants and submit them. And so as the audience member just mentioned, there's information about different types of grant mechanisms. They provided information about writing up the different sections, because grant writing is an art. and a science in itself. There's information that they provide about the review process. It's very important to understand how you're going to be evaluated when you submit a grant. And so our participants of that course received a wealth of information, and we're excited for all of the great and successful grants that are going to be submitted through people who attended that course.
Thank you. We have another question up front.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have a question from the community. Did any of your experiences in your research address the protection of the data that you're accessing?
I can answer that question. And before I do, I was remiss and I did not thank the participants who share their data for the All of Us research program. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question? It's late.
My question was if any of the research that was utilized addressed the protection of the data that they were accessing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, there are very strict rules and controls to protect the identity of the people that shared their data. You cannot report any results with less than 20 participants, because that would increase the risk that they might be identifiable. So these data are vigorously protected, and the participants' privacy is also vigorously guarded. That's a great question.
And I'll just add on to that, there are multiple tiers of data access. And that's another aspect related to the data protections as well. And when people go and sign up for the researcher workbench, they themselves as researchers have to go through in-depth training modules related to research ethics as well, just related to that.
Any other questions? No? Okay, I have a question. If a student would like to get funding from one of the organizations, is that possible for their graduate work?
Currently, there's two ways in which which students have access to funding through the Researcher Academy. And so one of the ways is if they are on a research team that has an institutional champion award, if they're one of the students, such as the students that came forward earlier. And the other way in which students can get funding to be a part of doing research on the Researcher Workbench is through our internships. So we recently just closed our internship application, and our first cohort of interns will start in May. But that is the other way in which students at this time can receive funding through the Academy. But please sign up for our newsletter, and you can be up to date on all of the different opportunities that exist to connect with the Academy.
Thank you. We have one question in the front. Oh.
We have a virtual question. How do we increase engagement of our communities in research?
So I can start with that one. I was at the NIH in 2019 in the summer for a summer genetics institute when I first heard about the All of Us program. And I was so excited because the project oversamples people from disadvantaged backgrounds. And as a researcher, I've often at predominantly white institutions had to I guess, educate why it was important to look at Black African-American people because of health disparities. Why are they special? Well, it's not that we're special, it's that we started behind and we've never caught up. And that has a direct impact on our community, on our families, on our personal health. Also in Greensboro, where A&T is located, I'm a member of the Greensboro Health Disparities Collaborative, and it is a partnership between the community in Greensboro, academia, A&T, UNC Chapel Hill, and a couple of other universities, as well as the healthcare agency that is primary in Greensboro, which is Cone Health. Moses Cone Hospital had a history of discrimination against Black people, and that's how the Health Disparities Collaborative was formed. So that is a unique model that I would love to see spread, because each of those three partners have equal voices in what we're doing. Our community partners sometimes will say, you know what, y'all need to break it down because you're speaking at academic talk and we don't understand that. And that way you can get to what's important in the community, what the health issues are in the community. And the Health Disparities Collaborative actually received NIH funding to look at disparate outcomes with Black patients with prostate cancer and breast cancer, and initiated a navigator program to help them get the treatment and the access that they need to get quality care. So look for those community partners that are doing things about the health and the safety of the community, and partner with them is, I think, a way that we can do that.
I'll just say a word on that as well. So I have a public health background, and I am a community engaged researcher through and through. And something that's very important for increasing community involvement in research is the trust building process. And so establishing relationships with community partners, community stakeholders, a long-term relationships, sustainable relationships, so that communities can see researchers and institutions be actively and authentically engaged and present, also helps with increasing community members' participation in projects, as well as their relationship with the institutions and the investigators that are doing research. The other thing is that as Dr. Ford also just alluded to, presenting opportunities to hear from communities about what matters to them, so that as we're doing research, we can actually address issues that matter to them, but also working in partnership with them. If community members have a sense that they have input and that they are involved in the process of research where possible, and have that input, that increases that trust and their interest and willingness to participate.
Can I also add that for the Greensboro Health Disparities Collaborative, whether you're a community member, an academic member, or a healthcare agency member, you must complete the Racial Equity Institute's anti-racism training to become a member. And so by having that requirement, we have people not just in the community that know about the effects of racism on the Black community, but we're also educating those people in academia and in healthcare. And it makes a difference with the way that they approach racial and health equities.
Last question.
This is not a question. It's just a comment. Ms. Bernice Fraser raised a very important question regarding the concern that the community might have or will have about data security and privacy? Very good question. But I want to reassure you that all of us research program takes those two very, very seriously. I serve on two committees there, the Committee on Access, Privacy, and Security. And you should, you want to be a fly on the wall to see the spirited discussions that we have in many of these committees. I also serve on the LC, Ethical, Legal, Social Implications of all these research that is being done here. It's called LC Brain Trust. So we take ethics very seriously, and we take privacy and security, and who goes there to look? For what? Why? What you gonna do with it? How are you gonna prevent stigmatizing others with whatever it is that you want to interpret the data to mean? Spirited discussions all the time. So just to reassure you and everybody else that's listening virtually, that we are very attentive to those very serious matters. The Dean of the college has an announcement that is very related to the issue of data science.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sodek. Again, I just wanted to express my, first of all, thanks to all of us, Academy, for this opportunity for involving our faculty and students. I've been hearing a lot of great things about this. Now I am able to experience this firsthand. Thank you very much. The announcement is, many of you may have already seen this. Tomorrow at noon, we are having a seminar and an informational session on data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, as they relate to health equity and health disparities. As you all know, whether we know or not, artificial intelligence and data science is impacting our lives in so many ways. And there's also, while it has a lot of tremendous health applications and research and in clinical setting, it also raises a lot of questions too. And so it's very important for us to be very well informed about where all this is taking us, and also some of the inbuilt bias, the racial bias that's built into this AI is of concern to a lot of our communities here. And to learn about that, tomorrow we have a seminar, and we have very distinguished panel of experts that have come here from the Morehouse School of Medicine, Dr. James Washington here, accompanied by two of his experts who are going to be presenting tomorrow. So I do invite all of you to please come for the seminar right here at 12 o'clock, and it will be, we'll also be serving lunch. And in the evening, 4 o'clock, we have a session, a learning session with the community, and many of the community leaders that are here are also going to be present, and I do look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Thank you, Dr. Sodeke, for the evening.
Okay, that concludes our question and answers. Great questions and great answers. Oh, one more question then.
How do we establish trust between the academic community and the local community? Persons of color have been exploited by the very institutions we are asking them to trust.
Great question.
You all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I saw we were in transition. As I mentioned earlier, partnerships are absolutely an essential component to the trust building process. One of the things in community engagement that we often talk about is having opportunities and conversations being mutually beneficial. Historically, and what you, I hear you alluding to in your question, is this exploitation and this taking away from communities and not giving back to communities. And so many communities, oftentimes, researchers come for the purposes of their studies and wanting to get papers and data for grants, and they take from communities, and they never pour back into those communities or work in partnership with them. And so the trust building process, and this is important for researchers who are in the audience to understand, the trust building process takes time. It is not something that happens overnight. And so that's a component of the trust building process, is to be present, work in partnership, and view community members and engage community members from a asset-based approach as opposed to a deficit-based approach. One of the speakers earlier talked about communities having research done on them or to them. However, community members have a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of skills and insights that they bring because they know their communities best. They know their community needs best. And so it's imperative for researchers to engage them as partners that also have assets that are a part of the work and the efforts that are being done.
Thank you so much, Dr. Hood. That is the conclusion of our Q&A session for real this time. I now have the honor of introducing Dr. Vivian Carter. She is the Department Head of Psychology and Sociology at Tuskegee, and she will be speaking on the history of research at Tuskegee. Dr. Carter.
First, I want to thank Dr. Shadeke for giving me this opportunity. He knows, and from our long years of working together, that I'm one person who says what she means and means what she says for a long time. And I'm glad to hear what I'm hearing from all of us and from the scholars involved. But for a long time, it has been said that, HBCUs are merely just teaching institutions. And I like to remind people that the reason most HBCUs exist is because the knowledge about the communities that they exist in were not there. And so what you see in terms of the longevity, in terms of the wealth of history and knowledge that has been generated is because of the very communities that those institutions were placed in. So when I talk about Tuskegee, I always like to tell people that we do both. We teach and we do research. And it's not something new. It is from the very beginning, from its inception, research has been at the core. And I'll explain, especially health. Now, again, in talking about Tuskegee, you always have to deal with what I call the elephant in the room. And it's always, when you bring up health and Tuskegee, people are going to ask you about the syphilis study. Again, my years of teaching and working with Dr. Shadeke, we know that it is call it by its proper name, the United States Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. Please, emphasis on the untreated syphilis. Now, it was conducted here at Tuskegee, but people forget that before that study even started, Tuskegee was concerned about health. the place they were utilizing, the hospital, was a premier health institution. Never forget that. I want to start back, and I say this again, from its inception. When I look back over the writings and I find Olivia Davidson, who is the first person that Booker T. Washington ever hired when he got here. She later became his second wife, but she was the first person he hired. There was no building, there was nothing, but he and her carving out this institution. But she is the first person of color to speak to the Alabama Teachers Association in 1886. 1886. The topic that she chooses is, how shall we make the women of our race stronger? If you go back and look in the archives there, and the Smithsonian has those papers, you will find her speech. It is amazing. She is talking about the health conditions of Black women in the South. That is what she's talking about, the health conditions. Then we want to move into looking at 1891. 1891, Booker T. Washington brings in and has specifically chosen a woman to be the first medical director at Tuskegee. She's the first female African-American female medical director. She is the first woman licensed, Black or white, to practice medicine in the state of Alabama. Now, that's not to say that there wasn't any healthcare going on before Hallie Tanner Dillon comes, because before Hallie Tanner Dillon, Booker T. Washington has established relationships with Dr. Cornelius Dorset in Montgomery, who would travel here, as well as Dr. Samuel Washington, no relation, Dr. Samuel Washington, who came up from Mobile. But there needed to be something, some presence here. And so he works to bring in someone under the radar. And that's Hallie Tanner Dillon, a woman. When Hallie Tanner Dillon gets here, she creates and starts the Lafayette Infirmary. But understand, there was a dispensary here, and that was under Nanny Calloway. She was working in conjunction with Dr. Cornelius Dorset. But it's Hallie Tanner Dillon who establishes it and founds the Lafayette Infirmary, which later on becomes, of course, John Andrews Hospital. She establishes a nurses training program here. And she establishes what we call in 1900, the Pinehurst Infirmary. Now let's move on to 1896. This is when you have one of the first farmers' conferences initiated. Now these farmers' conferences serve a major purpose in terms of disseminating information. You know, they talked about, how do we engage and reach the community? It's about establishing a relationship and disseminating information, meaning that whatever you got from them, you tell them, you show them what you got, you bring it back to them. Don't just take it. So in 1886, let me get back. I know y'all know I get on my soap opera, but I'm coming with you. Stay with me. Just stay with me. 1886. Okay. Start the farmers' conferences. People are coming. They're learning. Then you have this man whom I love dearly, Monroe Nathan Work. Monroe Nathan Work was hired by Booker T. Washington to establish research and records on the campus of Tuskegee Normal School. Now, Monroe Nathan Work is a trained, again, after my heart, sociologist, which I keep telling people, when you talk about data science, we invented it, we gather that. That's all we do. So, and look at the patterns. So Monroe Nathan work establishes this, but he's looking and he's beginning to tell the health history and creates Negro Health Week, which later on becomes a national program. Okay, so although Booker T. Washington is giving credit for it, it is really the foundation is in the work of Monroe Nathan work, 1915. Now, we want to go, because everybody's heard about the movable schools and George Washington Carver. And nobody can take anything away from Carver, genius. But I want to remind you, the concept of the movable schools was George Washington Carver. The man who put it in motion and materialized it is T.M. Campbell. We look here. That T.M. Campbell in 1906 becomes the first African-American extension agent. He initiates the nurse coming along with that, because remember the first concept of it was just go out, teach, do the home demonstrations, talk about hygiene. But here, T.M. Campbell recognized, no, we need something a little bit more, because of what he is encountering as he goes out. So we always have to give credit to, actually, it's T.M. Campbell who really makes those movable schools materialize. Jessup's Wagon is what it's a movable school, or the Jessup's Wagon. It's an agricultural experimental station that was established in 1897. Then it becomes the quote unquote, the movable school in 1906, and then home, health, and sanitation, and the addition of that nurse in 1920. The first nurse, rural nurse, is Uma May Hester. Uma May Hester, 1920. Now, the famed John Andrews Hospital. John Andrews Hospital existed from 1892 to 1987. John Andrews Hospital is where it's where John A. Kinney founded the Clinical Society. This is a group of some of the most creative and most innovative minds in the history of medicine in regards to African American. Now, I would dare say in the history of medicine, simply because you had white physicians coming into clinical society meetings, learning of the techniques and the treatments that were being done right there at John Andrews Hospital. John Andrews Hospital was one of the few places where Blacks could receive health care. And I like this because, and I like to talk about this simply because people forget when they talk about the syphilis study and the men, these poor, rural, Black men. I've heard it dozens of times, but you forget that these men came from all over. They didn't just come from, they were in rural Macon County, but they came from Mississippi, they came from Florida, they came from Louisiana, they came from Georgia, they came from all around. To receive health care from this premier institution, again, housed right here in rural Macon County. So it runs from 1892, okay, I'm gonna wrap up, 1892 to 1987. Y'all know I can talk. All right, I wanna talk about Bess Bolden Walcott, okay? In Bess Bolden Walcott in 1918 became a charter member of the first Red Cross. Now, what is significant about Bess Walcott, and that was the first Red Cross in a Black community, is here at Tuskegee. But the interesting thing is that you had Black men going off to World War II and the Spanish-American War fighting, and they were taking these blood donations, but they weren't taking any colored people or Black people. They weren't taking that. Bess Bolden Walcott changed that. She got them to integrate their blood donations. Okay, now you're talking about somebody, again, back in 1918, she becomes a field director in 1941, 1947. integrated the blood donations 1942. And Bess Baldwin Walcott in 2023, because of the Invisible Legacy Project, yes, I started it, was inducted in the Alabama Women's Hall of Fame. I want to just move on. That's me, Dr. Carolyn Gephardt, and Dr. Gwendolyn Jones. I want to talk about the Veterans Hospital, which was established, the first hospital, started by Robert Moton, established here at Tuskegee. Tuskegee gave that land to the US government specifically for Black veterans. It was the first Black fully staffed hospital. And of course, our veterinarian school, which is, again, without a doubt, one of the premier veterinarian schools in the nation, Black or white. 1946. Lastly, 1948, Tuskegee produces the first nurses baccalaureate program in the state of Alabama. 1948, Black or white, we were the first. And thank you for this time.
Amazing, amazing presentation. You're always going to learn something from Dr. Carter. You are. It is now my esteemed pleasure to introduce to you all today one of the reasons that I'm actually here, Dr. Dolores Alexander, who's a faculty member of the Department of Agricultural and Environmental Sciences and the Integrative Biosciences program at Tuskegee University. She will speak to us on continuing the legacy of research at Tuskegee. Dr. Alexander.
Thank you, Atia. And it is my pleasure to be here about how we're continuing the legacy that Dr. Carter talked about here at Tuskegee University. I'd also like to acknowledge that I'm also a member of the Department of Biology here in the College of Arts and Sciences, and I'm a member of the College of Pathobiology in the College of Veterinary Medicine. So Dr. Carter got you up until about 1948. I want to step back once, and then we'll go forward from that. Because one of the things I wanted to highlight is in 1915, when Booker T. Washington died, Tuskegee Institute had an endowment of about $1 million. And that was after a very assertive, aggressive campaign that he took up in 1905. So $1 million in 1915. Tuskegee's current endowment is $126 million. And that's great. While it's not as big as Harvard, Harvard is 53 billion with the B dollars. So we have a little way to go. Their endowment is 10 times all of the HBC endowments combined, 10 times all of our money, 10 times. 126 million makes us the second highest school with an endowment in the state of Alabama, second highest private school with an endowment. And I think number 8 among HBCUs. So we've improved a lot since 1915. We've definitely been continuing the legacy. Something else that I wanted to mention is that starting in 1912, here in Macon County, but in Lochapoka, Alabama, Booker T. Washington joined with Julius Rosenwald, who was of Sears and Roebuck fame. Came out of a Jewish ghetto, became fabulously rich, and a philanthropist who cared about what happened to underserved communities since he came out of one. They started the Rosenwald schools, pilot school here in Macon County in 1912, and they continued to plant schools across the southern United States so people from underserved communities could go to college, could go to school. And they did that. They built schools until 1932. It stopped because Julius Rosenwald passed away. There was also the stock market crash. But they continued to fund schools for people from underserved communities until 1948. And then those schools ended because of Brown versus the Board of Education in 1954. That landmark Supreme Court case ended segregation in public schools. And so people left the Rosenwald schools. And by 1964 or so, those schools had ceased to exist as educational institutions, but they were our foundation because when you couldn't go anywhere else, there were 5,300 plus Rosenwald schools started by these two men. And so Tuskegee had a part in that legacy. Didn't want to leave that out. Less than 10% of those schools are still standing. But one is here in Macon County. And you should take a look at the Rosenwald schools and think about that legacy. Lots of your grandparents and parents even were educated because of Rosenwald schools. And so we don't want to leave that part out. Tuskegee now has funding from lots of organizations. We started with funding from private organizations. Now we have funding from most major federal agencies. We lead with the USDA. It funds about 20% of that $53 million a year that Tuskegee brings in, followed by the National Science Foundation, the National Institutes of Health, and then the state of Alabama. We also are now starting a lot of patents. One of the criticisms of Dr. Carver was that he didn't patent very much of his work, but we learned from that. And so we have several dozen patents here, patents at Tuskegee. The last year, we actually had 6 patents issued. And so we're gaining as inventors and entrepreneurs. Tuskegee has 3 pillars: teaching, research, and service. And when it comes to research, Tuskegee's current vision is to provide world-class interdisciplinary research and education training to prepare scientists like the ones you saw here in front of you today, and professionals who manifest leadership, scientific excellence, and creative service to the 21st century. So after the Rosenwald schools, the next major milestone is 1940, when the Carver Research Foundation, which is directly across from this building, was built. It was built with $33,000 that Dr. Carver gave. He saved $33,000 of his money from Tuskegee, so that's hope for me. And then he dedicated that to build a foundation to continue the work that he had started. And it had a board of directors, and it continued to function as an independent research foundation until about the mid-1980s, where it was absorbed into the wider Tuskegee research community. But it served as a foundation for our research centers at minority institutions that currently is a big supporter of research at Tuskegee University. In 1977, we had the Center for Advanced Materials, started by Dr. Jelani, the late Dr. Sheikh Jelani. TCAM, as we came to know it, was the largest research infrastructure that we had at Tuskegee University. And from 1977 into present day, it's brought in more than $62 million in grants and contracts. There's more than $10 million of research infrastructure currently in the building that's split between Chappie James building and an actual module building out on the Tuskegee University farm. But it is available to any student, any faculty, researcher, and you should go over there if you haven't checked it out. It focuses on nanomaterials and polymer composites, but it helped launch Tuskegee's first PhD program, which is the program in material science and engineering, which has become the largest contributor of people with PhDs of color in the country. The Center for Biomedical Research was started in 1985, also in that building. And the Center for Biomedical Research is where the U54 grant we have with the UAB is housed. It's where the prostate cancer research that we do is housed, and lots of other research initiatives. It also in 1985, and for another 20 years going forward to 2005, Tuskegee had a funded Tuskegee NASA Center. So Tuskegee University partnered with NASA. First, I see Dr. Prakash nodding because he was one of the leaders of that initiative. The first objective was to learn how to grow sweet potatoes and peanuts in space in zero gravity conditions. And who could better do that in Tuskegee University? And so we were able to compete in that program for 20 years. And we have an almost 30-year relationship with NASA. So we went from the Tuskegee Airmen, who had to teach the country that we could fly a plane, to our experiments flew on several of the NASA missions. So from Tuskegee Airmen to NASA Space Science, Tuskegee continues that legacy. 2 years ago, NASA honored Charles McGee. He was one of the original Tuskegee Airmen. He celebrated his 100th birthday. And to honor him, they promoted him to Brigadier General. And so he came a long way from not being recognized as competent to fly to a general in his own ranks. 1907, Tuskegee becomes the first HBCU to be funded by the Howard Hughes Medical Institute. That institute, which has $17 billion in endowment, has been one of Tuskegee's funders for the last 30 years. We were happy to get another grant last year that will continue for 6 years, bringing our relationship with the Howard Hughes Medical Institute to almost 40-year relationship of continuous support. Then there are hundreds of other projects, including lots of initiatives with international institutions, more than 30 countries. Thank you. And it's 6 out of the 7 continents. We just need to hear about a funding opportunity for Antarctica, and then we'll have all of them done. And there's still lots of things we do as grassroots. In 2019, when we first learned of COVID, and the first we heard of it was from one of these students. It was from Muhammad Omar. He didn't talk about it, but he's a virologist from Egypt. And so he heard on their own chats that there was a new virus circulating in Wuhan province. I know that because he was in my class and we talked about it. It became a class project. So while we were sitting in that class, the virus was coming this way. And before there was a funding opportunity, before we had people coming in from outside, we had to help ourselves. So Muhammad and the other students to make the media to test for COVID. Before we could get it from the store or order it online or even get it from the CDC, we made it here. And when we could not find and buy PPE, the university collected PPE and provided it to the communities along with our expertise. So we continue that legacy, including the legacy of pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps. Sometimes when they won't give it to you, you find it, make it yourself. So major research grants at Tuskegee. The National Center for Bioethics and Research in Healthcare was founded in 1997 in response to President Clinton's apology to the survivors of the syphilis study. And you're right, we give credit where credit is due. They gave the credit to Tuskegee, we give it back. The U.S. Public Health Service study of untreated syphilis in the Negro male. And out of that apology came the National Center for Bioethics, which now fights against those type of unethical practices in research and healthcare. But when we really talk about research at Tuskegee, what we really focus on is our students. That's where our hope lies. That's where our passion is. And so there are the 5 PhD programs at Tuskegee, 14 Master of Science programs, including a program in public health, and then lots and lots and lots of ways for people to get involved in research. Tuskegee has now produced more than 100 PhD holders, and they are all changing the nation by forcing the nation to talk about equity and diversity and justice and inclusivity and access. So Tuskegee never stopped. We are not restricted to the past. We are continuing the legacy of Dr. Carver every day through the research that we do here, the research we do around the world, and especially through the creation of these new scientists, our students, where, as they said, our passion lies. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alexander. That was extremely powerful. Now we'll have Dr. Hood for our announcements.
Are we sharing? Okay. Okay. Let me make sure the slides are coming up here. While we are transitioning, I just want to let everyone know that my heart is so full and overjoyed right now, hearing all of the students talk about their experiences and the benefits that they've gained from participating in the Researcher Academy makes it all worth all of the long hours that our team puts into this program. And so once again, I just want to thank you for having our team there today, and all of the powerful information that was just shared. Tuskegee has such a long and rich history of advancing scientific research. And so I cannot go forward without just acknowledging that. But I will go through with the announcements here, please, if you can share the screen. Okay. So as I mentioned, and I want to go quickly here, just in the interest of time, we have our Institutional Champion Award applications. They're still open, the application cycle, until April 14th. And so if people are interested in applying other institutions or within the institution, please click on the QR code to access the application form. Next slide, please. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the courses tonight and heard all of the benefits from faculty and faculty members and students that have attended the courses. And we have a few upcoming courses in particular that we want to announce that will be taking place in the next few months. We do have another offering of our publication related courses. And so we have a course on promoting your publications so that people can know about your publications. We also have a course focused on ethical, legal, and social implications of genetic research for all of us, as well as a course on introductions to literature searching and support for all of us. Once again, these courses are open and available to the faculty members and students and postdocs at HBCUs. And you can scan the QR code, or if you have access to the slides, can click on that link and you can sign up for courses. If you do sign up for multiple courses, you'll just need to complete the course, the form each time for each course. Next slide, please. Okay. And then one other course that I want to highlight is our big data course that is being done in partnership with the Odom Institute. And we know that all of us is a huge data set. And so we have 2 options for sessions for researchers to learn about the ins and outs of working with big data. And so you can click on the QR code to sign up for the course. And we have multiple offerings in June. I think this concludes the announcements.
What a day. What a day. Let's give all of us a round of applause for sitting through it, and all of those on the virtually watching us, including my friend and brother in the faith, Dr. Kareem Watson, who is the Chief Engagement Officer, essentially with all of us over all these things. I believe he's watching virtually as well. I don't want to miss the opportunity to acknowledge you. Thank you, sir, for your continuous support. You know you are in these for the long haul. I want to thank all the faculty, administrators, students, community folks, friends, and family who have attended in person as well as virtually online. My hearty thanks goes to Dr. Vivian Carter, wow, and Dr. Dolores Alexander on their wonderful and informative presentations. Let's give them a hand again. We have gained a lot of important information, have we not? Yes, we can use these information moving forward. What we don't use, what do they say? We lose. Okay, so we want to use this, and we are hopeful that TU faculty and students will follow through on this. I am available to continue the conversation with any one of you that wishes to do so. I'm only an email away. Finally, I want to express our sincere appreciation to the planners of this meeting, Campus Community Partnerships for Health. Thank you, Mr. Richmond, RTI International, Dr. Sula Hood, Ms. Tonya Lee, and I believe Mr. Smith is representing that department here. Ms. Lee is Director of the TU Office of Marketing and Communication. They worked very diligently with Mr. Abraham George, who is Chief Information Officer. I recognize him in absentia, and the IT department team as well. Dr. Sonsori Price, and Mr. Regina Howard, and Mr. Doug Eves. Yes, and the WHU TV team. You did a marvelous job to make this event truly outstanding. Kudos to you, and many thanks.